Well, now it's time to break down Group E, which, in my opinion, is the strongest group from top to bottom in this season's Champions League. I mentioned earlier that Group B has four teams that are each capable of winning the group. I don't quite feel that way about this group, but many of the pundits who are breaking these groups down said there is no true group of death in this year's competition. But if you had to pick one, Group B would be the closest thing to it. So with that, we break down Tottenham Hotspur, Bayer Leverkusen, AS Monaco, and CSKA Moscow. Now, for the Tottenham Hotspurs, they're coming in off of a very disappointing third place finish in last year's Premier League. Of course, it's not really disappointing because they made the Champions League. That was the main goal, but it was the way things ended at the end of the season where you throw in the word disappointment. You also throw in the word disappointment to describe how those players perform at this summer's Euros. They kind of have to reestablish the momentum that they had built up so well, through the core of last season in the Premier League. They certainly have a phenomenal core of talented, experienced young players who can get the job done. Harry Kane already has 2 seasons of 25 or more goals to his name. He is the most consistent English striker, in my opinion. Not the fastest player, but certainly a truly clinical finisher. They just recently over the offseason signed Vincent Janssen from AZ Alkmaar. He knows all about scoring goals in the Dutch league. We'll see how it translates to the EPL and the Champions League, but we'll provide some much needed support for Kane. But the part of this Tottenham team that really wows people is the midfield. Christian Eriksen is right on the cusp, in my opinion, of becoming a world-class player. He has quietly blossomed into one of the top midfielders in all of Europe. I mean, what a tremendous set-piece taker, passer, dribbler of the ball, can score from distance. Just the total package. He is perfect, as is Eric Lamela, for Mauricio Pochettino's, in-your-face, just relentless pressing style, kind of similar to what Jurgen Klopp is doing at Liverpool. But, Lamela too has matured a lot lately. He really struggled to come good at first. He loves to wear his emotions on his sleeve at times, but he's really growing up, getting his act together, and, the sky's the limit for a player of his caliber too. And, they bring experienced players, of course. Moussa Dembele has been at the side for quite some time now, the Belgian international, and Moussa Sissoko, left Everton jilted at the altar right at the 11th hour of the transfer window deadline, opted to come to Tottenham instead. So it'll be very exciting to see what he can do after such a fantastic Euro. Very inconsistent for his club, so I think he might end up disappointing Spurs a little bit, but one summer signing who's already paid nice returns is Victor Wanyama. Just a fantastic holding midfielder purchased from Southampton. Has already got his name on the score sheet, which is a nice little surprise there too. But he's just so good at closing down the ball, just suffocating for opposing attacks at times. Another major signing that Tottenham made in the midfield is George's Kevin Nkulu. I hope I pronounced that correctly. They spent 11 million euros on him for the 21-year-old from Marseille. So that's a young talent who I'm sure Pochettino is looking to help develop. But for me, the X factor in the Spurs side is Dele Alli, who absolutely exploded onto the scene last season. I mean, he's only 20 years old and is a regular, outstanding player in the Barclays Premier League. He was just scored some worldies last year, and there's a lot of hype surrounding him, and I think he's going to live up to it moving forward. Seems to have the right mentality and temperament. So, looking at the defense, in my opinion, the Spurs have the best center back pairing in all of English football, with Toby Alderweireld and Jan Vertonghen, two very, very strong players in the air, great with the ball at their feet, have good instincts. Like I said, I would take that pairing over anyone else in the EPL. But, the Spurs do have a habit of conceding a lot sometimes, really, allowing the goals. And it's certainly, in most cases, I would think, not because of, guys like Alderweireld and Vertonghen, or, Hugo Lloris for that matter, because he is a world-class keeper. Oftentimes, the liabilities in the Tottenham back four are the fullbacks. Eric Dyer and Danny Rose are both very strong attacking players who can certainly score goals, but they can get caught out of position and leave the rest of the back line exposed. So you got to wonder how much are they going to improve defensively, because that will play a major factor in whether or not Tottenham wins this group. Now, looking at Bayer Leverkusen, they are a very, very dangerous team in my opinion. They're going mainly, and you could say, at least the first reason, better way to put it, is Chicharito. Javier Hernandez came in from Manchester United and told Louis van Gaal to eat his heart out with the way he played. He had a stretch of 15 goals in 12 games. He just set Germany on fire. He just, at the time where he really needed to get his career going, or face just falling into a coma practically, he just really played fantastic football, scored those goals. True crucial factor for the team. Now, Lars Bender is the team captain, but not sure what type of factor he's going to play. The German international, who is the brother of Borussia Dortmund midfielder Sven Bender, as I like to call him, Svender. He is going to maybe be handing off the armband to Ömer Toprak, who is a very, very strong defender for the Turkish national team. Been Mr. Reliability in a sense. But, the young players, I really want to key on the young players on this side, because they have Hakan Calhanoglu, the Turkish international, who at 22 years old already has over 20 caps for the Turkish national team and has a pretty solid goal-scoring record as well. He has said it himself that he wants to be what Mesut Ozil is to Germany. He wants to be that for Turkey. So clearly a guy who wants to accomplish great things in his career and is on the right path to doing so. And Jonathan Tah and Julian Brandt, defender and midfielder respectively, they've both already been capped by the German national team at the senior level, and they're both have yet to turn 22 years of age. So great young talented players there. They have experienced players like Karim Bellarabi, who owns the fastest goal in Bundesliga history at 9 seconds. He is quite the pacey winger who can do the job. As well as Stefan Kiesling. Not sure at all if I pronounced that one correctly, but when you watch him play, he tends to always make an impression. But, in terms of goalkeepers, though, they might have the best goalkeeper of the group. I mean, Hugo Lloris is world-class, but who knows if he'll stay fit. Bernd Leno has long been linked to some of the best clubs in Europe. And, he could really, really command a hefty transfer fee one day. But as long as he is with Leverkusen, I'm sure they will be happy to have him. Now, looking a little bit further down, AS Monaco, is a team owned by a Russian billionaire. They've spent big, but they haven't been able to attract the type of caliber of players that PSG has gotten. And, I think that the deal they made for Radamel Falcao will prove to be one of the worst transfer dealings ever. A fee, I believe that was in the region of 60 million euros from Atletico Madrid. Had an absolutely disastrous time in England with both Manchester United and Chelsea. But let's face it, it really comes down to the fact that he hasn't been the same player since he tore his ACL back in 2013. Because before that happened, he was one of the top 5 strikers in the world, really, and now he's honestly not even a shell of his old self. So it would be nice to see him experience, maybe a late renaissance in his career, a resurgence, kind of like, what Fernando Torres has enjoyed at Atletico Madrid, but I just don't see it happening. But who knows? I've been proven wrong before. In terms of other players who are worth keeping an eye on, Joao Moutinho, a very skilled, adept, experienced midfielder from the Portuguese side. In terms of younger talent, that's also Portuguese. Bernardo Silva has a lot of experience for Team Portugal. He's gotten plenty of caps, and he's only 22 years old. I'd look at him to really make an impression out there. And, Andrea Raggi of Italy will bring some stability to the defense, and they have a high-quality keeper with Daniel Subasic, who's a big, big part of the Serbian national team setup. So when you look at CSKA Moscow, that is a team that I'm sure will be very excited because they get to play in the Champions League in their new stadium. What a way to kind of christen the new building, if you will. But, a name that might jog the memory, and you wonder, where is he coming from? Alan Jagoyev. Remember Euro 2012? Yeah, he is that guy who finished as joint top scorer in the competition. Very fancy dribbler of the ball. has an incredible set piece taking ability. Just a wonderful finisher. He is hitting his prime right now. He kind of bursted onto the scene very early on as a teenager. He's in the prime of his career now. Like I said, at 26 years old. I look at him to really do some interesting things in this group. Igor Akinfeev is the goalkeeper for this side. He has more clean sheets than any other Russian keeper and has nearly 100 caps for the Russian national team at only 30 years old. So the best is yet to come for him, you would assume. Zoran Tosic, if that name rings a bell, he did have a cup of coffee at Manchester United. He had a couple of caps before they got rid of him, but he's found a lot, much more success in Russia, as well as with the Serbian national team, a pacey player who could bring some excitement down the flanks. In terms of the center of the park, they'll be definitely looking a lot at Bibris Natko, the Israeli international, to get it done. He has plenty of Champions League experience from his tenure at Rubin Kazan. Can really pick out a nice pass and score goals as well. So, Moscow are no slouches. It's certainly going to be a difficult ride for them, but ultimately it's hard to see them progressing. Now, my predictions for this group are as follows. I'm going with Tottenham to win the group, but not by much. I think it'll come down to the last day of group play. I think they will just eke out past Bayer Leverkusen, who I think will kind of get by into the second spot fairly comfortably ahead of AS Monaco, followed by CSKA Moscow. So with that, I wrap up my Group E preview and will hopefully see you for Group F.